Vampire Princess, and we're back for part 2 of Seduce Me. Okay, so I did a little questionnaire thing on a different page and asked people whose route they wanted me to do first, and I was asked to do James's route first. So that's who I'm gonna do. So that's kind of the gist of it. So a little run view of what just happened. Your character's grandfather just passed away. Micah's grandfather just died. And they held the funeral the day he died. That's kind of a little bit messed up. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Let's go. A sudden anger bubbled within me, but I quickly swallowed it. There was no use in getting mad, especially when the person in question was no longer there. I'm sorry. It's hard to stay calm when you've left me with so many questions. Especially about what happened between you and Dad. What am I doing, talking to a grave? My vision blurred and I suddenly realized that I was crying. My face heated up as tears rolled down my cheeks. I'll bring you some flowers later. I miss you, Grandpa. I'll try my best to fulfill my promise I gave to you, even if the world might be turned against me. I left the grave, wiping my tears hastily so my parents wouldn't see.
Well, it's time to head back home. I'll cook up your favorite lasagna when we get home, okay?
Thanks, Mom. However, my dad didn't speak the entire drive home. I wanted to talk to him, but after his moment at the funeral, I wasn't sure if that was a good idea.
It's about time we took off those dreary black clothes.
Dad, you're a dick. Gathering my courage, I decided then that it was time to talk. Dad, could I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Why do you want me to move into the estate so soon?
I thought I made that rather clear. The college near your grandfather's house is well known for its business program. You are planning to major in business, yes?
No, I'm planning to major in stripping. Just kidding. What?
Right after you graduate from high school, you'll just live there and can easily commute to and from school. It's a perfect fit for you.
But it's so sudden. You just decided so quickly right after the funeral?
Don't be so sensitive. If you're like that in the real world, you'll be crushed.
I'm just saying that maybe we could talk a bit more about my future. In reply, my father rubbed his temples and sighed quietly.
After you graduate from college, you'll work at Anderson Family Toys. I have connections since I am part of the board of directors, so you will be guaranteed a spot.
A part of the
That
board
is
of
what we talked
dickheads.
about before, yes?
But what if...
Stop mumbling.
But what if I don't want to work there?
Don't be silly. It's the family company. Our company. I'm not just going to hand it over to some incompetent vice chairman.
He came closer to me and his face softened.
Look, this is all for the best, okay? You may not know it right now, but you will appreciate it later.
For some reason, when I heard him say that, something snapped in me. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, but it made me feel so angry. Did you even care that grandfather passed away?
Of course I do.
Well, everything seems fine and dandy to you. Things couldn't be better.
Excuse me? I don't like your tone, young lady.
It's like nothing even happened at all. You just ignored the fact that he's no longer here.
Do not raise your voice at me.
Whatever did he do to you to deserve this? My father, his face hardened, crossed his arms and erupted in angry laughter.
Ha! You sure place him upon a pedestal, like he's some kind of venerated god or something. It makes me sick.
Is that it? Are you happy seeing grandfather dead? While everyone else was grieving, were you holding yourself back from laughing on everyone's face? Did you feel just a bit happier seeing him live in the graveyard? A flash of rage crossed his face, and he whipped the back of his hand across my cheek. Oh, damn. Well, that couldn't have been worse.
You don't know anything! Running your mouth like somehow you know everything that went on, when you're just a little girl that doesn't know how to keep her mouth shut!
Damn, Dad.
You did not know my father! You did not know what he was capable of!
Nothing. I'm not hungry. I think I'll just go to my room.
Honey, wait!
I quickly turned and ran up the stairs to my room, slamming the door behind me. My breath came in short pants, and for a while, I just leaned against the door to my bedroom, eventually sliding down to sit against it. How did things become like this? My cheek still throbbed, and I tensely stood up and looked in the mirror to see how it looked. Hopefully, it doesn't bruise. What am I saying? Tears formed in the corner of my eyes, but I blinked them back rapidly. I couldn't quite cry twice on the same day. I had to be stronger than that.
Are you alright? Your father told me nothing happened, but you know your father.
I'm fine, I just lost my appetite.
The lasagna's done, though, and I don't want you skipping any meals. Are you sure?
Yeah, don't worry about me, Mom. I'll come downstairs later to eat.
You're not telling me the whole story.
I just don't want to eat right now.
Please, dear. Tell me what's going on. I wish you would tell me why you're being like this.
I wanted to tell her. A part of me was screaming to tell her what Dad had done. At the same time, I knew she couldn't fix anything. Besides, I was moving out regardless. I remained silent, letting the event remain in the past.
Well, I'll leave your food on the table if you want to eat it later.
Finally, my mom left me alone. It was strange to think that she was only a few inches away from me, only separated by a single wooden door. I really didn't know what to do. I needed to do something, anything, to get my mind off what had just happened. Anything would be better than thinking any more about the pain still radiating from my cheek. I was going to move into my grandfather's house tomorrow. I should probably pack my stuff so I would be prepared for tomorrow. Yeah, that was a good idea. Should start packing. I opened the closet, rummaging around for a while before I finally found 2 large bags, pulling them out onto the floor of my room. I then began to empty my drawers and cabinets so I could bring all my things with me. I didn't have much to bring other than just clothes and some toiletries. It was kind of bizarre that I didn't have many personal belongings. It wasn't like my luggage was completely devoid of them, but I certainly didn't have many things in my room that I would miss if I suddenly left the house. I shook my head to rid of myself of those thoughts. If it was going to be my new home, it would have to feel like it. One way or another, I was going to make it into a home. Just as I was packing my things, my phone began ringing and vibrating in my pocket. I slid my phone out of my pocket and answered while I was setting myself onto my bed. Who could possibly be calling?
Hey, Anderson, you there? Is everything all right? We were worried about you, so we decided to call. Hello?
I'm really glad you guys called. My voice managed to come out, though it was only a whisper.
What happened? Are you okay?
Well, I slowly began to tell them about the funeral that afternoon. A small silence followed when I was done recounting what happened. And to my relief, Naomi finally spoke up.
I can't begin to imagine how you must be feeling right now. I'm so sorry. Do you want us to come over right now?
No, it's okay. My dad isn't in I'm sorry. My dad isn't in a good mood, so can we just keep talking on the phone like this?
Of course! We'd stay on the phone until the crack of dawn. Right, Suzu? Yeah. We're always here if you need us. After all, we wouldn't be the awesome triple threat trio without you, right?
Yeah.
Triple threat trio? That sounds like the name of a gang. Yeah, I mean, we're all taking on the world together. We've got to sound somewhat scary, or else no one's going to take us seriously. What's with you and naming things? You've got to step up your game, Naomi. Falling behind to the cool kids like Anderson and me. Tisk, tisk. Hey! I'm a cool kid! If anything, I'd say you'd have to step up your game.
When you're desperate. We chatted cheerfully about all sorts of things. Very soon I'd forgotten about the events of that day and was engaged in a conversation about Naomi's favorite TV show, some program called Thurlock. I'm pretty sure that's just Sherlock with a thur. What? We all agreed that the actor playing the titular character certainly had a very distinctive look about him, with the long overcoat and scarf wrapped around his neck. We had many disagreements about who we thought the coolest character was. I messed that up, I'm sorry. Haha, yeah, he has really high cheekbones, and his eyes are pretty, though I do have to say I prefer Jatson. As a bonus, his actor is just so sassy. I looked at the clock hanging on the wall and realized how late it was. Whoa, it's already 1 a.m.? Sorry for keeping you guys up so late. I think I'm gonna hit the hay for tonight. See you guys at school tomorrow. I should probably shower and go to bed. I can't believe I stayed up this late just to talk to my friends. But it was really nice. Well, to the bathroom I go. I took a relaxing shower. Nothing beats hot water and the feeling of being clean. After drying myself, I promptly dressed in my pajamas and crawled into bed. A nice hot shower after a long day. I'm so glad to finally be in bed. It had been a really long day. I knew that I was wishing for something to change back in class, but I certainly wasn't expecting any of the things that happened today. And I have to go back to school tomorrow. Ugh. I curled up on my side and tightly wrapped the blankets around me. I really wasn't in the mood to be returning to school, but my dad probably would make me go just for the sake of it. It's time to go to sleep. I reached out to the lamp. Sorry. I reached out to the lamp on my nightstand to turn off the lights. However, my mind was so lost in the passing of my grandfather and the thought of inheriting something so big that it haunted my mind the entire night until the next morning. I shook my head to clear the sleepiness out of me to no avail. I really didn't get any sleep last night. It's already time to wake up. Wait, school. As soon as I realized I had to go to school, I slid out of my bed and looked at the vanity mirror. That's a relief. Luckily, there was barely a bruise on my cheek. You had to squint to actually see it. I doubted anyone would actually notice it unless they leaned in really close. Breathing out a sigh, I got dressed, took my backpack, and caught the bus to go to school. It wasn't even hours before everyone heard the news. I was approached at school and given condolences for my loss. However, that wasn't what shocked my friends.
Wait, so you have the whole Anderson house to yourself? Lucky as hell, man! Quit being so sensitive, Naomi. Quit being so vulgar, Suzu.
Suzu's right, Naomi. Naomi's right, Suzu. Honestly, I mean, it's a house. You don't really need to be, sensitive about it. I don't know. This is kind of a tough one to choose, but I don't know what will affect the game. So I'm just gonna do Suzu's right, Naomi.
Of course you would side with her. Huh. See? At least she knows how to have fun. I know how to have fun. You don't need to be wild to have fun.
Yeet. Guys, I'm going there after school today because my parents want me to get used to living there.
Seriously? It hasn't even been a day since you came back to school.
I know, but my parents want me to try living there as soon as possible.
Still, that's really fast. Are you going to be okay?
Nay. Of course. Liar. But even in the comfort of my best friends, life seemed to keep testing me. Oof.
Hey! Don't go around shoving people like that. Whoops. Did I strike a nerve, Capini?
She let out a small laugh as she twirled her hair around her fingers. Lisette, one of the last people I wanted to see today.
It's not me you should be apologizing to. Oh, Anderson. Hey, how's it going?
I'm alright.
Haven't you already heard, Lisette? Of what? Her grandfather's passing. Well, I'm sorry about that. I don't really watch a lot of news. It doesn't really sound like you mean it. I do mean it. Earnestly. Why wouldn't I? Typical Capini. Isn't her family involved with the mafia or something? I wouldn't be surprised if she brought out the bat from behind her back right this moment.
I had nearly forgotten the crowd that followed Lisette. which was mostly comprised of people that no one wanted to see on a typical school day. No one had the slightest idea why exactly they followed Lisette around so persistently, but they labeled themselves as social equals with her.
That is out of line. Suzu comes from an honest family.
Says the one whose family profits from political scandals.
Yeah, your dad doesn't make anything unless he's in the courts with dirty politicians.
Hey, let's all calm down for a second, alright? I'm sure Anderson needs some time to recuperate. I mean, what just happened? We need to give her some respect.
Just stop. Stop acting like that already, like you feel sorry for me.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I'm sure you're happy seeing me like this. You already have everything you wanted, and now seeing me like this, life couldn't get any better. Bitterness sped into me, and words started flying out of my mouth without filter. But honestly, I didn't care. I was so consumed by anger that I only saw Lisette in front of me. What exactly am I to you? Just another part of your obstacle course? Is that what I am? I'm sick of it, Lisette. I'm sick of all these charades. I'm sick of you. Gasps rose from the crowd around her, and I was brought back to the school hallway. Even my friends beside me looked at me in surprise. One girl looked like she was going to speak up, but Lisette held her hand out to stop her. There was an emotion in her face that I couldn't quite make out, but I could see a form of pity in her eyes. No, don't you dare pity me. I looked away from her. I didn't want to see that emotion in her eyes when she was talking to me. She didn't have the right to look at me that way.
I'm sorry. I know your grandfather passing away must have really taken a toll on your emotions.
She stepped towards me and put her hand on my shoulder, giving me a tiny smile, as if for old time's sake. But for some reason, I didn't feel comforted at all. Not that I was just angry at her, but the expression on her face when she leaned in close to me contorted into something complex. Something was different about her. I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but something about her had definitely changed.
Well, I'll be going for now. Track meet responsibilities and all of that stuff. See you later.
Something about Lisette made me feel uncomfortable. I wasn't just angry, but also uneasy. What was it? I had never seen her like that before. But I decided to pay no further attention to it. She continued running down the hallway with her gaggle of friends behind her. I refocused my attention to Mrs. Phillips, who was walking down the hall towards me.
Is everything all right, girls?
Nothing we couldn't handle, Mrs. P. Just a bunch of snobs. Suzu, hush! It was nothing, Mrs. Phillips.
I see. Well, Miss Anderson, please accept my condolences for your loss.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Your grandfather was a good man. He really upheld the philanthropy of his company's policies, and the money that went towards charity, too.
I know. He was amazing. I really looked up to him, and I want to be as good as he was.
Well, I know that you'll be as great as your grandfather. Hell yeah, she will. She'll be 10 times better than her grandfather.
Would I really be better than my grandfather? Everyone seemed to have high expectations for me. I wanted to do my best and make my family proud, but to be better than my grandfather? I wasn't sure about that. From outside the school window, I saw a familiar blue car pull up to the curb. Undoubtedly, it was my father in the driver's seat. Oh, my ride's here. Well, I guess I'll see you both tomorrow?
Want us to come with you?
Oh, no, it's okay. I'll be fine. See you. Hey, Dad.
Hey, honey.
As I got into the car, I noticed my father looked troubled, clutching at his steering wheel, staring straight ahead, as if something was really bothering him.
About what happened yesterday. I'm sorry for yelling at you. Does your cheek still hurt?
No, it's nothing to worry about.
I mean it. I shouldn't have laid a finger on you. You know that you're my most precious daughter. You're all that I have.
Yet he couldn't bring himself to say what he could never say to me for such a long time. I always wanted to hear those words to affirm how he really felt, but I guess even now he couldn't say it to me. I turned my head away to look out the window. There was no point in waiting for something that was never going to come. And like that, he began to drive and the conversation between us ended. I decided to focus my attention on the passing scenery. We were taking the usual route to Grandfather's house. It was located within the vacancy. You know, that's a word. Of a school district. But it was still pretty far from the school and from where our house was. He had always lived alone. He insisted on doing things by himself, even at his age, living in such a huge house. I wondered, did he pass away with no one at his side as well? It sounded so lonely and sad. It was strange that he decided on living all alone in his large estate. If anything, he could have lived with us. Though he and my father probably would have given each other the silent treatment the entire time. Maybe living alone was preferable to that. I actually hadn't visited him for quite a while. Visits to his house were most frequent when I was a child, and I had to grow up long since then. Ooh, I'm sorry. The last time I visited, though, I thought he looked just as he usually was, happy and healthy. But things changed in the back of my mind. I knew that he would have to leave one day. It wasn't like humans could live forever. So why did my heart feel so heavy? The car ride was mostly spent in silence until he spoke up again.
How was school? Maintaining your grades, I hope.
Yeah. I've been trying my best as of so far.
Trying? That's not really doing the best you can, is it?
With my father, only some words I said were filtered through his ears. It was difficult to keep a conversation without eventually talking about academics or my future, even if it was continuously loosely based on it. He always found a way to integrate it whenever we talked.
Anyway, your belongings are in the trunk. There isn't a lot, so I'm sure you can manage bringing them inside the house. After all, you are on the road to being independent now.
Yes, I can manage on my own. The silence resumed between us. I wasn't really sure what to say around him, especially when most of the time we didn't hold the same opinions. One question did linger in my mind, though. If he was going to justify acting so nonchalant at Grandpa's funeral, I had the right to at least know why. I think it's probably best to leave it alone. I feel like maybe you might get in trouble again if you try to bring it up, and we don't want your character in any more trouble than she already was, so there was no use talking to him about this. It would be like reopening a wound or reapplying a bruise. Shots fired. I'm sorry. He sighed. I sighed. He gave me a side glance out of curiosity, but didn't pursue it further. Typical. I leaned against the car door and stared out the window. I really couldn't think. What would this place be like? I have been to my grandfather's house often, but it was one thing visiting, and it was another thing actually living there. How would I manage living on my own without any training to be a homeowner? I knew naturally the bills would be paid by my parents, who inherited grandfather's stocks to the corporation, but I never lived independently before. Thinking about it made me feel like some kind of bird being pushed out of the nest. Though I was technically an adult, I felt unprepared and a bit daunted at the prospect of actually moving into a new place. Most people my age would be enthusiastic about moving out. After all, it would symbolize some kind of change in their lives, like being on the road to independence. But I felt like it was nothing of the sort. I really hoped I wouldn't let my parents down. I didn't want to let grandfather down. What would he be saying right now? I gazed up at the passing clouds in the sky. If you're out there, grandfather, how would you be doing? Would there be anything you'd want to tell me in this moment? And of course, no answer. What was I doing, searching for an answer in a heaven that would or would not exist? I ducked my head to stare at the blur of trees and cars from the car window. My head was definitely going to be in the clouds there at that moment. Either way, I found myself being driven off to my new home. The car rolled to a stop and I drifted out of my thoughts.
Here we are. Go on in.
All right. Tell Mom I love her.
All right.
I love you, Dad. No, make sure to come by and visit us often. No, I'm going to miss you lots. Nothing other than a blank stare. I paused a bit before reaching for the car door handle, waiting for any form of goodbye, but he didn't speak again. I sighed and exited the car, hearing my dad pump open the trunk. The bags I packed last night were large enough to carry only the things I needed. I took them out, placed one bag on each shoulder, and closed the trunk. He then drove off, leaving me alone in front of the mansion. I watched the blue car fade into the distance of the road before turning to see my new home. There it is. It's huge. My grandfather gave me this? It's hard to believe. The house was framed by tall gates. Hesitantly, I pushed them aside to take in the entire estate. The house still looked like it did when I last visited him. At a glance, it seemed kind of intimidating with its size, though if I came closer, it was clear that there was no more to do than that. The brick walls were framed by shrubbery, and lovely flowers, bringing in a homey and welcoming look. But its curtains, I'm so sorry. But in contrast, the tall doors in the house gave me a feeling of grandeur. That's a word. Who knew what was waiting for me? But I wouldn't back down at this moment. I took out the key to the front door and unlocked them. Well, might as well make myself at home. I'll be staying here for quite a while anyways. That's when I saw them. Lying on the floor was a group of men. They were all unconscious. There was no explanation as to why they were here in the first place. I dropped my bags and let the door close on its own behind me. Huh? Who the heck are these guys? Why are they here? What's going on? Some of them had open wounds. The blood was staining the floor and the scent was terminating within the air. I couldn't help but feel bad for them instinctively, but I was still shocked and a bit angry at the sudden intrusion. My mind suddenly went from caring and concern to confused and demanding answers. Who are you people? No response. I'll call the police. Still nothing. None of them seemed to be awake. It seemed surreal to have random strangers in the house I just moved into. But I wanted answers quickly. That wasn't until... Eep! Get away from me!
Woman, you're going to let me kiss you.
Oh. Okay. I couldn't believe it. Within a mere blink of an eye, one of the men went from lying on the floor to being right in front of my face. What was even more odd was the fact that I felt serene and calm about it. Slowly, desire burned from my chest, telling me to accept his kiss even when my mind vehemently refused. I suck at words. Huh? Go ahead.
Good.
Oh. As he kissed me, I could feel my body go weak. I didn't know why, but the kiss was draining me of my energy, and yet it was so good and it made my heart sing. It was strange and tingling. It was a strange and tingling feeling that danced over every nerve of my body. I could feel streams of intangible energy run through my veins and into my lips. It felt odd, but at the same time, it felt amazing.
Sam, stop it.
The person kissing me, Sam was his name, glanced behind him.
I said stop. Now. Fine.
Finally he pulled back, and I was left standing there in a daze. What? Huh? I couldn't tell what was going on. My mind was completely enwrapped by the kiss that melted into the depths of my forgotten memories. Okay, guys, so we're actually going to have to end this part here. I went a little bit overboard, and I didn't mean to. Part 3 will be uploaded shortly after Part 2. And I'm sorry for the sucky audio and my voice. It's kind of annoying, and, in case if I didn't make that clear in the first video, this is for PG-16. There is mature content in here. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, please do not watch this video. And that's about it. We'll see you in the next video. Bye!